Hi, this is Dr. Marisa Chan with Discovering Parenthood. Today is going to be our last video on discipline and punishment and how to effectively use them. So in past videos, I covered how to do an effective timeout, as well as a timeout with a meaning that you want to, at the end of the discipline, provide the child with an alternative behavior. When you take away a behavior, you need to give them a new one. And then in the next video, we discussed how to effectively use the count 1, 2, 3, as well as one of my favorite uses of the count, which is providing the child with the opportunity to change their behavior without parental intervention. That's why you can say 1, 2, and before you even get to 3, the child's altered their behavior. So today we're going to talk about house rules, the importance of house rules, and how house rules translate out into the public. So this is a great opportunity if you have school-age children, kindergarten on up, to sit down and have a family meeting. And this is a time that you can all brainstorm and give your input. Keep it to 5 rules, and even include your children. Hey, what are some house rules you would want to see? And you'd be surprised. Sometimes they'll say something silly like, oh, no drinking coffee or no bedtime. You don't have to incorporate that. You can say those are really great suggestions. What about, no throwing or no yelling? And get creative. In this way, the child's voice, the child feels empowered. They feel as though they have input into the family, because a child is part of the family unit. They impact the family's dynamic. So this is a great way to include them in that process. And then have a preset of, okay, so if a house rule is no throwing the ball and you throw the ball, then what is our consequence? Or maybe it's no yelling, and you broke this rule, so what's going to be the consequence? And this is a great way, once you lay that foundation and you're consistent with implementing these house rules, to then take it outside the home. And I can't stress that enough. I have 3 children, 2 are toddlers, so I understand the difficulties. So the way I then utilize, and what I suggest to parents, rules outside the home, is I keep it to 3. So when I have to take all 3 of my kids into the bank, I have 3 simple rules, because it's easy to remember. We go over them before we get into wherever we're going. So let's say the bank. So before we walk in the bank, I will say, remember the 3 rules. And these are our 3 rules. There's only 3. No running, no yelling, keep your hands to yourself. Those are our 3. You come up with whatever 2 or 3 that work for you and your family. I know sometimes when I work with parents, they feel uncomfortable with the word no. So I say put it in a positive. When we go into a store, we walk, we keep our hands to ourselves, and we use our indoor voice or a soft voice, however you want to phrase it. So it doesn't always have to be a no. You can tell them what you expect them to do. And sometimes I use a combination. I will say, remember, we walk, don't run. We use our indoor voice and we don't yell. And we don't touch things. We keep our hands to ourselves. However you want to phrase it, whatever makes it, the point is that it keeps it simple, that you can remember easily, and pretty soon your kids will know, because now it's to the point where I say, okay, who can tell me a rule for the store, whether it's the grocery store, the bank, the mall, wherever we may go, and they tell me, well, we don't do this, we don't do that, okay. And it also helps that when they are breaking a rule, let's say running, which is a common one, I'll call them over. I don't yell. I call them. I say, little Johnny, whatever your kids say, come here. Then down to eye level, because you want to make sure you have their attention and you're looking eye to eye. And you say, what rule are you breaking right now? And typically they can tell you, especially if you've gone over this and they have a foundation. They'll go, oh, I was running. And you say, well, remember, we don't run in the store. Stand next to me. Another thing I do is I tell them, hold the shopping cart. Stands right here. We went to the bank. I'll tell you this briefly. And my middle one was 3 at the time, so it was about a year ago. and my oldest was making his bank deposits, and he wanted to stand up in line with my oldest while I stayed with the baby at the time. And the rules are no running, and he continued to run up and down. So he got a warning, and he didn't follow the warning. He continued to run. So I said, okay, you need to come sit down, and you don't get the lollipop because you broke the rule. So my oldest and the youngest, they both got lollipops. The middle one did not. And that happened a year ago, and it's never happened again. A lollipop seems so simple and small, but to them it was highly impactful. They look forward to that lollipop that they get from the bank up the street. But the idea is you need, the parent, and I need as the parent, to have control over our children. Because if you're walking in a mall and your kid runs off, they're hiding underneath a clothing fixture, or they dart out the store, or maybe you're walking in the park. You need to maintain control because these are safety issues. So rules are in place to keep them safe. It's not to be mean. And that's another thing I talk about with my kids. These are in place so that something doesn't happen to you. Someone doesn't take you, so you don't get hit by a car. And those of you who live on the East Coast in New Jersey, you know, people don't always pay attention. It's our job, the parent, to pay attention to our surroundings and our children's surroundings, and what our children are doing, and take that temperature. So again, house rules. Keep it to about 5. You really don't need more than 5. Really, I mean, running, balls, screaming, hitting, and then whatever is applicable for your family. And again, include your children. A great opportunity to include your children so they can feel part of the process and they can feel empowered as part of that family unit, because they have a voice and it impacts them and you. So that's it for today. I am very excited to be wrapping up this series and going into the next series, which is building confidence through independence, which is something I'll be discussing next week. So please stay tuned, because I've been doing a lot of research on this and I've found some pretty surprising information I think you will find helpful. So please stay tuned for next week. Give my website a visit at www.discoveringparenthoodnj.com, and make sure to like us on Facebook and follow us on YouTube. Thank you.